Well, first and foremost, my heart is just really just struggling to watch this situation unfold. Another Jewish institution, and specifically a synagogue, that's being attacked. But this one is even more personal for me, as I know Rabbi Citron Walker really well. We were in rabbinical school together. He was a year ahead of me during school, and I know his family. One of his daughters went to camp with my daughter. So this is very personal. And Rabbi Citron Walker and I, every summer, are together at Green Family Camp, working as faculty. And he's one of the most minchy, like sweetest guys you will ever meet. And just watching the live feed when it was up and hearing his voice, it just struck, my heart just hearing that.
When did you find out what was happening in Colleyville?
Late this morning, I found out what was happening in Colleyville. I received a call from our security director to notify me. He was brought into the loop as one of the students at University of Texas, who's very active at the Jewish student organization, Texas Hillel, actually grew up at that synagogue and was watching the live feed while it was happening, made sure that her executive director knew, and that Maya Chardiron, the executive director, called our security director, and then I got the call.
And when you heard that it was that congregation, what went through your mind?
I knew exactly which congregation it was. I just knew immediately that it was Rabbi Citron Walker's congregation, and it immediately became personal. It's always personal when it's any Jewish institution, any organization or synagogue, but that connection that I have to him, and I know that congregation well because he's been there since he was ordained as a rabbi straight out of school. It just became very personal. And I know a number of its congregants. It's the children and youth that they send to Green Family Camp. I've met a number of them when I've served as faculty at the camp.
Are you, I guess, how are you reacting with your congregation? Are you kind of keeping everyone in the loop? What are the conversations that are happening for Shalom Austin?
Our main goal is to make sure, well, there's two things. One, we want to reassure our community that we're aware that this is going on. We want to reassure our Jewish institutional partners, the synagogues and organizations, that we're all going to work collaboratively together to first ensure that everyone is safe in the greater Austin area. And at this time, we do not believe that there's any threat to us, and that we are going to collectively send our thoughts and prayers to the families, the members, and the people that are part of Congregation Beth Israel in Colleyville. Those are the most important pieces of what we want to be conveying at this time, and to make sure that our community here knows that we're doing everything possible to ensure their safety.
Like you said, it's very personal whenever anyone in the Jewish community or any synagogue or any congregation is involved in a situation like this. Can you talk to me about how tight-knit the Jewish community is in that way?
Sure. I mean, we always talk about how the Jewish community itself, whether it's in Texas, in Austin, around the world, it's a small Jewish population. So we always talk about and sometimes joke about Jewish geography, how we all know each other in some shape or form. If you know someone, you can link them to someone else. And especially here in Texas, where just like the Texas community feels very strong, whether it's in the Jewish or not, it's especially the case in the Texas Jewish community. Most people know people in the communities around Texas, and specifically because Austin people come from somewhere else, they have relationships with people across the state and in the Jewish communities. And so for us, when we hear of an incident, especially close to home in Texas and outside our own city, our own region, we most likely know someone in that community. And so, and it's because we've got regional camps here. We've got regional resources here. People come together for youth groups and for other gatherings. And that's why we're so tight knit. That's why we all know each other. And it's one of our values as Jews, is to have this concept that we're all bound together as one.
Have you reached out to the rabbi's family at all? Like you said, you've met them and have spent time with them before.
So my classmates and I'm indirectly reaching out to the rabbi's family. I don't want to inundate his wife or his family with a bunch of text messages, but one of our classmates who's even closer to them than I am, is much closer, has been communicating directly with the family to let them know we're thinking of them and our thoughts and prayers are with them during this very difficult time. And my understanding that my classmate has had a chance to talk with his wife, his partner, at this time.
And I got to ask, what is your message to the rabbi's wife and to the other hostages who are involved as well?
First and foremost, we stand with them, and our thoughts and prayers are going to be going their way on behalf of not only myself, but my entire family who knows their family, and that we are praying for a speedy and safe resolution, that everyone will come home safe, and that this will be resolved in a way that will protect them and just know that we're going to stand side by side with them until this is resolved and after.
Do you have a message for the hostage taker that's involved in this?
You know, that's a difficult one. I hope that he finds in his heart that regardless of what he perceives has been done to his family or to himself, that we're all created in God's image, in God's likeness, and that taking a life or any lives, or even harming a life, whether it's by killing someone or not, is not keeping with what God wanted for us as a humanity, and that there are other ways to resolve issues and conflicts. And I just hope that in this very challenging moment, he will find a way to hear that message.
What is the ripple effect of a situation like this? I mean, this is so far reaching in terms of its impact. So can you kind of tell me about the ripple effect that can come of this?
Well, I think there's a couple of things. First, there's been a series of anti-Semitic incidents as of late, one very close to another congregation, Beth Israel, except in Austin, as y'all know, and it just resurfaces all the feelings that we as a Jewish community have. They don't go away. And it just resurfaces that anti-Semitism is only on the rise in the United States and around the globe. And it just becomes more real. And I think for us, it's how we constantly respond to it, both proactively and reactively, and how we as a community come together with other communities outside the Jewish community to stand in solidarity to fight against it. Because we know that when someone attacks the Jewish community, they're attacking any community. That doesn't necessarily stand with people who think that they're being targeted, and it's just a very difficult time. So I think the ripple effect is that and actually in some ways positively, let's hope that people understand this is a serious issue that needs to be taken seriously. And the Jewish community has historically been the most targeted community. And it's just a reminder, it's a painful reminder that that is still the case today in the year 2022, that we're having to deal with that.
Okay. I think that's all my questions for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to add? Anything else you think that I missed that is important to talk about?
The only other thing I'll mention, and I know you're going to talk to Rene in a second, but I just want to say how lucky we are to have such an incredible leadership in this community, in the Jewish community, specifically our partnership with the Anti-Defamation League, with ADL Austin and ADL Austin's regional director, Rene Lafair, and having the resources of the ADL plus our own resources in partnership with all Jewish institutions. We're just very lucky to have that in place here in Austin and to have such incredible allies in our community that are outside the Jewish community, but certainly are partners with the Jewish community.
When did you first hear about what was happening in Colleyville? I think the first calls were coming in like around 11:30 or so. When did you first hear about it?
I heard about it this morning.
Okay.
Also,
do you know anyone at that congregation? When I was talking with Daniel earlier, he happened to know the rabbi there. Just wanted to see if you had any connections.
I do not have connections, but my counterpart in Dallas does.
Okay. What have the conversations been like within the ADL about, what's been going on there and speaking with your partner in Dallas?
At ADL, the things that we look at in situations like these are bringing all of our resources to bear to help the community. So whether or not that's helping law enforcement with our Center on Extremism, or helping law enforcement with our Center on Technology and Society, if there's any work that needs to be done with tech companies or with law enforcement, providing them resources, providing them research if we have research that can be helpful. That's our goal, is to be of assistance and to be a resource to the community.
In a situation like this, where does the ADL come in?
In a situation like this, the ADL is in constant communication with our counterparts in the Jewish community, with law enforcement on the ground, and with our resources and our subject matter experts. That's kind of where we come in on this. But honestly, Mike, this one is a completely different situation. And I really encourage people to be really careful not to draw conclusions until we have facts. But when there's life at risk, it's a whole different, we just all have to be super careful and let law enforcement do what they have to do.
When you first heard what was happening in Colleyville, what went through your mind?
A few things. One is, I hope that what I'm seeing isn't true. What is it? The denial. And then I guess it's almost like a little form of mourning, denial and then anger. Like, I can't believe that this is happening and this is terrible. And then you start to drill down and you think about the families that are involved or the community that's involved, and just wanting just to be as supportive and as helpful as possible to resolve the situation in a way where everyone is safe on the other end.
What's the messaging that you want to give or share to the Jewish community in Austin?
The messaging that we generally do is, and we partner with Shalom Austin and the other, local synagogues a lot on this, is that we're on this. We know what's going on. We have been in touch with law enforcement, and that, we are here and working together to make sure that the Jewish community is safe here as well.
And I asked this of Daniel earlier, do you have any message for the hostage taker in this situation?
Let me give that one some thought. If there is, I don't know all the facts, but this is life. Life is precious, and let's make sure everyone is safe on the other end.
What happens now in terms of how does this situation, this hostage situation, have a ripple effect in the Jewish community, if there is one? I don't want to presume.
So in Austin in particular, in the last few months, we've had a huge number of anti-Semitic incidents, which has been something unlike I've ever seen in since my almost 9 years of being at ADL. And there's been, basic things like a lot of, some particular groups that are virulently anti-Semitic that have tried to, cause problems and I don't know, provocate. I don't know if that's the right word, but just to draw reaction and to spread their kind of venom around. And so I would say that the Jewish community here is tired, angry, a little weary, and grateful to the greater community for supporting us in what has been kind of, a really bad few months.
Talk to me about the strength to move forward. Like you said, it's been a bad few months, especially, with the different incidents that have happened in Austin and now this one in Colleyville. Talk to me about the strength of moving forward and taking that next step.
Well, like every community, like the Jewish community, is strength in coming together with our neighbors, condemning hate together and reconnecting with others. And what do they say? Elie Wiesel's famous quote is, the opposite of love is not hate. The opposite of love is indifference, not being indifferent to your neighbor or indifferent to the hate that we're seeing, and not being a bystander, but being an upstander. Those are the kinds of things that we have really seen and we really cherish. And, it's interesting. I've had people come to me and they say that they almost want to double down on their Jewish strength from seeing all of this. It's kind of having that reaction in them. So that's, everybody's going to have their own personal take on what's going on.
So Rene, we've seen a lot more incidents of anti-Semitism lately in the Austin area. How does the ADL respond to that?
So what the ADL does is, some of the work that we do is, we're a convener of the Austin Travis County Hate Crimes Task Force, which we convene with City Council and the DA's office, which brings together civil rights groups and all areas of law enforcement and the district attorney and the U.S. Department of Justice. And we work on issues of hate, both incidents and crimes that happen in various communities. And we work together on strategies of how to properly both identify them, respond to them, and create community to push these incidents away from Austin, because we're trying to build a community without hate. That's honestly what our goal is for a city, is to build the best community for us all to be in together.
Those are really the questions that I had for you. Is there anything else that you wanted to add about what's been going on in Colleyville and the Jewish community is being so tight-knit that it is? Is there anything else that I missed or anything else that you wanted to add about going forward?
No, I think your questions were really strong. Is there anything I want to add? No, it's just that we will get through this. We're strong, and we will, honestly today, the most important thing is to ensure the safety of the people who are in danger. That's the only thing that I want to just focus on today. And then once we get through this, then we can download, replay, rethink, and figure out how to appropriately react.